What's up all? It's John here with EDMProd, and today I want to take you on a little rundown of all of my favorite new features in Serum 2. Steve Duda went insane with this one. He's been working on this synth for like 10 years now, and it's really an incredible synth. I've been using it now for about a week, and I've pretty much been using it in every project as much as I can just to try and learn the synth and wrap my head around it, and a few of these new features really stuck out to me. So I wanted to give you a little rundown on all of my favorite new features in Serum 2. These presets are available to download for free. There's a link to that in the description below the video. Go check that out and get all the presets I show at the end of this video, plus a ton more that I made. All right, let's jump on in here. So first and foremost, the oscillator overhaul. All right, let's just start with that. There's a number of things regarding the oscillators that I think are really incredible. First of all, the fact that there's 3 of them. That's amazing. I mean, just adding one more oscillator completely opens up an entire world of possibility. And on top of that, each one of these oscillators now has 5 different sound engines. You can either have a wavetable, just like Serum 1. Now let's call it Serum 1 now. That feels weird, but yeah, Serum 1. But you can also have a multi-sampler, regular sample, granular, or spectral oscillators. I'll take you through a little bit of each of these. The wavetable, we know this, we've been there, we've used Serum before. I'm not going to dive into this. Let's skip straight over to multi-samples. With each of these, they have a whole bunch of really nice factory samples that come preloaded in here. Let's just open up this baby grand piano. What we are looking at here is individual samples. If you click any one of these, you can see the sample associated with the square you just played. There we go. That's the sample for that note. That's a sample for that note right there. As they're organized vertically, this is by velocity. So low velocity, medium velocity, high velocity. And the boxes, as they are organized left to right horizontally, correspond to the individual notes. So the way you make a multi-sampled instrument is you'll, let's say, take a piano, you'll play a note softly, then you'll play it again with medium velocity, then you'll play it again with a high velocity, and then all 3 of those get stacked up here, here, and here to create a more realistic sounding instrument. Sometimes samplers, if you're just using one sample of a note and you're trying to play multiple notes with that, the sample engine can degrade the quality of a little bit. So this is really amazing, the fact that we can come in here and build our own multi-sampled instrument or just use the ones that they provided. It gets an extremely realistic sounding sampler. In addition to the multi-sample, we also have just a regular sample instrument where you could come over here, drag in a sample of your own creation, for example this one, and play around with it, add some distortion. We've added a granular engine, which is really incredible. Let me go find another one of my samples and just throw this in here. So here's a little neuro-based sample I made a while ago. This is actually a very fully featured granular engine. If you click this little blue button here, you can kind of get under the hood and play around with the shape of the grain. You can also hold Option and just drag this little blue window around down here. You don't even need to open this up. You can play around with the density, the scan, the length of each grain. And then you still have all the warp modes here too, like this tube distortion. And then FM from B and filtering. Turning the random up applies a randomization per grain, gets different distortion levels. It's so deep, it's endless, it's really cool. Then we have the spectral engine. So we're just gonna stick with the sample that I've been using in here. Now we're getting a spectral version of that neuro-based sample. We can do all kinds of cool filtering with this. By using these on the side, if you right click, you can smooth this out. And yes, you can modulate these. We get all kinds of new spectral warp modes in here. And it comes with a spectral filter that you can come in here and just click and draw whatever filter you want and add some curves to it, like that. Let's do one up here too. The last thing in the oscillator section that I think is really amazing is the ability to now shift these oscillators not just by semitones, but by a ratio or a harmonic. If you right click up here along the oscillator tuning section, you can choose mode and set it to harmonics. Now instead of semitones, you shift this oscillator in harmonics. I love this for me because one of the ways I like to make basses is by combining two harmonics like this and then distorting them together. It's so nice we can do this now because now I'm not stuck with just using the harmonic series wavetables. Instead, I can use any wavetable or any sound engine type. For example, let's grab a sample of some bass, clean 808 sound, and I'm going to set it on looping mode. And I'm going to set the loop up to maybe around this section right here. Another really incredible addition is the ability to take the output of any oscillator and use it to modulate anything else. So let's say I want to modulate the level of this wavetable. Well, before we could use, of course, LFOs, envelopes, velocity, note, right? All you have to do is click and drag that over here, and now this level is being modulated by LFO 4. But now what we can do is we can drag where it says oscillator B and assign that as a modulator. This opens up the door to a wide variety of new frequency modulation options. For example, I can take the output of this oscillator and use it to modulate the cutoff of the filter. Frequency modulating a filter cutoff is one of those things that's common to do within the modular synthesis realm, but it's a lot less common within a synth like this. I know it looks like it's moving slow, but it's just the frame rate with how quickly it's moving. So listen to all those new interesting tones we're getting out of this. We don't have to use the oscillator that's playing the sound itself. We could use another different modulating oscillator that is at a lower frequency. Let's take oscillator B and map that to it instead. And now we can play around with the coarse tuning of B. Effectively using it like an LFO to modulate the filter. You can take the output of sub, map it to anything. You can take the output of any of the oscillators, the noise, and the filters as well. It just really turns the synth completely modular in a lot of ways. Okay, while we're on this page, I want to talk about the new filter they added that I really love. Now, they added a whole bunch of new filters in here. My favorite so far has been this diffuser. And the diffuser filter almost has like a dispersion kind of effect to it. So if I turn the resonance up and I start to increase the stages, look at this really like nice, fat, juicy bass. Loving this filter. Now, another really cool thing they've done here is they've added this PZSVF filter. What is the PZSVF filter? It doesn't do anything. It's like, okay, cool. This is like a filter of nothing. Sure, it adds some drive maybe, but what are we doing here? Well, what we're doing is we have a fully customizable filter. So you can come in here and just mess around with any of these points. Right click to choose different types of filters. We've got high pass, low pass, bypass, all pass, band pass, notch, bell, and free. Let's make this one an all pass. That'll be fun. And play around with some of these. Now we've gone and made our own custom filter setting in here. So here's one of the coolest things about this filter. This is actually a morphing filter. So I have filter 1, filter 2. I'm going to go ahead and just make another random filter here for 3. We'll We'll do something like that. Maybe we'll make this a high pass. It's a low pass, whatever. We'll do a low pass. That's what I got. And then we'll go down here where it says 4, and we'll make this something real weird as well. I don't know, free? Whatever free is. We're not going to do free. We're just going to do a whole bunch of notches. Something like that. Whatever. Yeah, there we go. Now I have all these different filter types in here. If I grab this little handle right here, I can morph between all the different filter types. It can get really crazy loud as it hits the output for some reason. Probably the different types of filters that I used. But we've also got a whole bunch of factory presets in here too, which is nice. Awesome new update to the filter. Really, now that we have the ability to draw our own filter in here, it's just endless. Let's move on over to the effects section. I want to talk about a few of the new effects they added that I'm finding extremely useful. First off, this bode, which is kind of like a weird frequency shifter thing. I mean, it is a frequency shifter. It's not really kind of like it. I've been finding this really useful for adding stereo width to sounds. We can hear as we're changing the shift either way, it's creating the stereo width by frequency shifting the pitch down on one side and up on the other. So that's really cool. Up next we have some new reverb types like vintage, nitrous, and basin. These are wild. Nitrous is a really large, strange sounding reverb with different mode types in here. Space, marble, rectangle, hexagon, box. Box is kind of like a tight, closed-in feeling one. Marble is really bright and spacious. Space is huge. Then we have basin, which to me feels very metallic. Vintage is like a really nice old vintage reverb. Has a lot of delay type feel to it. Overall, a very lush sounding reverb. So all of these new types are incredible. Now we come to one of my favorite things they added, and this is the splitters. So here we have the ability to split the frequency into lows, mids, highs, or if you want, you can add a low and high or just a mid-side, which is incredible because now we have mid-side processing just built right into this. So cool. But we can split this up, so if I want to maybe leave the lows alone, so let's just go ahead and make a bass sound. I want to leave the subs alone but add some distortion to the mids. I can come over here and click the little plus and add some distortion, and that's going to be only on the mids. So if we click the lows, it's not happening. So it's basically only happening between 100 hertz and 1000. Leaving the highs and the lows completely separate. And if we want to go to the highs and add a reverb to it, we can do that. I've been finding this extremely useful for creating bass sounds because in a lot of situations, what I want to do is keep my sub nice and clean and distort everything else. Another incredible thing is that we can just add as many effects as we want. Look, if I want to have a distortion, I can have 2 distortions. I can just hold Option and drag and there's another distortion. Nasty, nasty, neuro-bassy type sounds. Which before, if I was only using one distortion unit to do this, it doesn't have the kind of beef that this does. You can add like a whole bunch of chorus effects on here too. Like a chorus in between each distortion. That would sound pretty strange. Another really cool thing they added is this mixer here. This mixer has really opened the door to a lot of creative, completely within Serum, busing and processing. We can now do parallel processing here with these 2 buses. So let's just go back over to the Oscillator tab. This is a crazy, crazy sound. It's completely destroying the sub though. And I want to add a sub back in. Well, I can turn my sub on here. Problem is, that's not helping anything. because when I turn this oscillator off, we can hear my sub is still going through the mains. Now, before we could definitely do direct out. That was a thing before. So there's direct out. And now I just have my simple sine wave sub. And now we have the ability to mix the direct signal separately from the main channel, which has all my crazy choruses and distortions on it. But let's just say we want to actually add a little distortion that's separate from the other distortion, just to kind of warm this sub up some. Well, check this out. Now we go back over here. I'm going to set this to none. Now we're getting no sound. But if I turn up bus 1, I'm now getting sound again. The sub is being routed over to bus 1, and bus 1 is being routed to the main. I don't want that, so I'm going to go click direct. And if I go to my effects section, I can go ahead and add a distortion on bus 1 and get a nice warm sub. Then if I go back over here, I can add a filter, take all the lows that I don't want out of my crazy neuro-y top that I made, turn this back on, there we go. Having the ability to mix things and parallel process is just really, really incredible. And it's nice that you can kind of see exactly everything that's going on here. If you want to go directly to one of these different channels here, all you have to do is double click a device on it and it will bring you right to that bus that the device is on. What weird, crazy neurobase would be complete without some filtering? I'm going to go ahead and turn this filter on and set it to a simple notch. And of course, you know, worth mentioning, we have 2 filters now over here, which is really cool. Let's go and add a second notch over here. Filter 1, filter 2. And we're going to go ahead and route A through both of these. Just back off on some of these. Let's turn a couple of these choruses off. We're going to hear a little bit more of what on earth we're doing. Cool, now we're actually getting a little audible movement from these 2 filters here. One of my favorite new things they added were the chaos LFOs. Look at these things. We have 2 options. We can map the x-axis or the y-axis. Let's go ahead and map the x-axis to this filter, and we're going to map the y-axis to this filter. Now, notice that both of these filters are being sent to the main group. So these are running in parallel. If we want, we could run them in serial by taking the output of filter 1 and sending it to filter 2. So now they'd be running in serial, which maybe we kind of want to do that. Let's keep it like that. I'm going to turn the rate down a little slow. Let's just dive into a couple of presets here that I've made using some of these new features. So here's a nice harmonic wub I made using the new harmonic shift feature, as well as some of the splitters here to add a little bit of reverb on the top end. Also the new white noise color engine over here. Finding these extremely useful as well. All right, here's a preset that's really kind of a cool soundscapey pad. Here I'm making a lot of use of the LFOs, chaos, all the different types, all the different new ones. I threw some processed breaks in here, used a couple of the spectral tables. So yeah, making a lot of use of all the new things they're adding to this. Here's a pretty simple one I called Guitarp because it's a guitarish type sound with an ARP. Kind of a nice guitar sound, making use of the multi-samples here. So yeah, we got a whole pack of these for you over on the website. Like I said earlier, if you want to check those out, link is in the description. Hope you found this useful. Go forth and make some crazy sounds in Serum.